this section we want to talk about the concepts of least common multiple and greatest common divisor, also called the greatest common factor. The least common multiple is the smallest positive integer that is a multiple of two or more given values. So what we do when we try to find the least common multiple by hand is just list out the multiples of each number so far and see if we can find the first one that we have in common. So we're just going to jump right into this. Say we wanted to find the least common multiple between the number 6 and the number 15. So I would write here 6 and 15 and just start listing out multiples of 6 until I felt satisfied, then start listing out multiples of 15 and hopefully find one they had in common relatively quickly. This can be a time-consuming process, particularly if the numbers are relatively prime, but again, this is we don't get into too difficult type problems of this in this class, so we'll just take a look at this and see if you can understand what I'm talking about. 6 times 1 is 6, so we start listing out multiples of 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 4 is 24, 6 times 5 is 30, 6 times 6 is 36, 6 times 7 42, 6 times 6 48, and you hear multiplying 6 by bigger and bigger numbers, but the other way to do it is just to keep adding 6 every time. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 6 is 18, plus 6 is 24, plus 6 is 30, etc., etc. So there's multiple ways to think about it. Either we just are continually adding 6 to get the next number, or we're multiplying 6 by bigger and bigger values. Now we're going to do the same thing for 15. We'll start with 15. 15 times 1 is 15. 15 times 2 is 30. Now I could keep going, but I've already found a value that is common in both lists. So as soon as I find that first number that is the same, that is my least common multiple. So we write the least common multiple of 6 and 15 is 30. And you'll notice I have a TI-83 calculator here. There is a way to do this in the TI-83 calculator as long as there are just two numbers. We could find the least common multiple between more than two numbers, but if you have just two numbers, you can do it in a graphing calculator. Under the math menu, under the number part of the math menu, you see at the bottom LCM and GCD. We're going to be using both of these in this section. The LCM is what we want for this in this case. We want the LCM of 6, comma, 15. Close your parentheses, hit enter, and it gives us the same value of 30. So these graphing calculators come in handy in problems that are pretty straightforward, in which you just have two numbers you're trying to find the LCM or the GCD of. If you have more than two, it won't do it. You can't just keep listing more, but it does come in handy in some cases. So now we're going to look at the greatest common divisor. The greatest common divisor, also known as the greatest common factor, is the largest positive integer that divides two or more given values evenly, also called the greatest common factor. So we're going to look at the greatest common divisor of 6 and 15. The way I do this is I list out all the numbers less than the given number that divide into that number evenly. So for instance, we always start with 1. 1 goes into any number evenly. 2 will go into 6 evenly. 3 will go into 6 evenly. 4 won't. 5 won't. 6, the number itself will, and I can stop there because no number bigger than 6 will divide into 6 evenly. We'll do the same thing with 15. List out all the factors or divisors of 15. 1 is a divisor of everything. 2 will not go into 15. We learned that from the last time. The last number has to be even. 3 will. 4 won't. 5 will, because the last digit is a 5. From there, actually 6 through 14 won't. So 15 is the only other one. And the reason I know the rest of the values won't is because once I get to a pair in the middle that multiply to give me the number, which 3 times 5 is 15. I know there's no other values other than the numbers that divide it from before. So the only number before 3 was 1. 1 goes into 15 15 times, so that had to be the only other divisor. If there were more numbers between 1 and 3, we would have had to divide also. And I'll give you an example of that so you see what I'm talking about. But anyway, for this particular instance, 1, 3, 5, and 15 are the only factors. So now we look for the biggest number that our two lists have in common. They have a 1 in common and they have a 3 in common. 3 is the bigger value. So the GCD of 6 and 15 is 3. And again, we can do this in the calculator as long as it's a graphing calculator. If you go to the math menu, go over to the number option in the math menu, go down to GCD of 6, 15, and we see that the GCD is 3. So say we wanted to find the GCD of 4 and 12. So I'm going to do the same thing we just did. I'm going to do it by hand. We could do it in the calculator, and we'll check ourselves in the calculator. But I want to show you by hand, so I kind of explain what I meant. We skipped straight to the 15 on the factors of 15. The factors of 4, 1 will go into 4, 2 will go into 4, 3 won't, 4 will. Now I stop. 12, we know 1 will go into 12. We know 2 will go into 12. 1 plus 2 is 3, so 3 itself will go into 12. We could divide 12 by 4. And if we check that in the calculator, 12 divided by 4 is 3. So 3 times 4 is 12. So in this case, we've come across our two consecutive numbers that multiply to give us 12. So now I know the only other numbers that will go into 12 are all the numbers I get when I divide by my factors that I don't have the corresponding value to. So for instance, 12 divided by 2 is 6. 12 divided by 1 is 12. So those are my other factors of 12. I don't have to check every value in between. Once I get that pair in the middle, I just divide my main number by the remaining factors to get my larger factors. So there's my factor list. Again, 1 is a factor. 1 will be a common factor of every pair of numbers. 2 is a common factor, and 4 is a common factor. So in this case, the GCD of 4 and 12 is 4 itself, because 4 was the greatest of our common factors.